Hello once again. It is I, Mrs. Stafford, and welcome to our last installment of our 4-part series of perseverance. And you all know that perseverance means continuing to do something in spite of difficulties or obstacles. And our treasure verse is found in, yes, you guessed it, Matthew 19:26. With God, all things are possible. The last 3 episodes, I have been sharing stories with you. I shared a story about Debbie and her skates, Job, the tortoise and the hare, Helen Keller, and Thomas Edison. But this episode is special because I will be sharing a personal story with you about my own perseverance in a very special place. I have always wanted to visit Hawaii. So when the senior class of 2020 asked me to be a chaperone, I could not refuse. So as the day of the trip got closer, I asked the senior class sponsor, Mr. Gomez, what I should expect to do. He told me we would be going to some popular restaurants, sightseeing, walk around, and then, surf, bike, hike, kayak, snorkel, the normal things you do in Hawaii. Okay. All of these were optional, but I figured senior class would want a chaperone that would be fun and at least try new things, right? I tried to prep myself. I did some indoor biking, walking here and there. I watched what I ate. But because of COVID, we weren't sure if we were even going to be able to go. So I kind of eased up a little bit, but with God's grace, the 17 seniors, a few parents, Mr. Gomez, Mr. Moore, and I boarded the plane and was off to Hawaii. Our first day in Waikiki was wonderful. We did some sightseeing, shopped, and ate some great food. In the evening, we even did a scavenger hunt to find famous places in Waikiki. It was so great. And then I remembered I was going surfing the next day. So I prayed that night and asked God for my lungs and my legs to keep up. Something you should know about me before I continue. My stamina for cardio isn't the best. Plus, I have mild asthma, so as soon as I stepped out of the airport terminal building, I could feel the moisture in the air and the heaviness I felt in my lungs. And I said to God, oh no, please help. So I took a deep breath and I said, it's okay. I can do this. Another thing you should know about me, I have bad knees and bad ankles. I've injured them multiple times because I played volleyball throughout high school and well into my late 30s. We woke up to a beautiful day for surfing. So when they train you, you practice on a board on the sand. They tell you to paddle with your arms, push yourself up, get up onto your knees, put one foot in front of the center of the board, and try to stand up. Sounded simple for someone who was in better shape, but I tried and I was able to do it on the sand. And now it was time to get into the water. As I walked onto the water with my board, I said a little prayer. So the trainers told us that we should get onto our board, lay down onto our board, and start pedaling out to where the waves start. Well, it was a little harder than I thought, but thankfully a trainer was there to drag us towards where the waves begin. So, as soon as we got there, the trainers were pushing us out along with the waves so we can try and surf. I was watching all the students and the teachers getting onto their boards and surfing, and I was like, ooh, I can't wait to do that. So it was finally my turn. The trainer pushed me forward towards the shore, and I was able to pedal and pedal and pedal, push myself up onto my knees. I was able to put one foot in front of the center of the board, and as I tried to stand up, I lost my balance and I fell over. Even though I fell over, I was okay with it. I was a little disappointed, but I looked over and I looked around and I said, I really do want to go surfing, so let me try again. So I went out and got onto my board and I pedaled out to where the waves begin. Of course, I waited patiently for my turn. and I finally was able to get my turn, and I finally got pushed out. So I pedaled and pedaled and pedaled. I pushed myself up. I put one foot in front of the center of the board, but my left leg wouldn't allow me to push up. My knee started to hurt. So instead of trying to stand up, I just stayed like that and waited till I calmed down in the water, and I plopped myself down onto the water. And that was okay. So I said, let me try it one more time. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to get on the board one more time, but I was so thankful and grateful that I was able to even at least get on the board, get up on my knees, and even put one foot in front of me. I was, however, worried about my arms getting sore. I figured with all that pedaling and all that pushing up, I'd feel my muscles really sore that night, or even the next day, or even throughout the trip. But the next day, we went biking and hiking, and my arms didn't have time to get sore because they were working overtime. We were heading to Diamond Head, a beautiful place with a beautiful view. The plan was to bike from our hotel up to the trail and hike up to the scenic point of Diamond Head. One of the students couldn't ride on a bike that day, so Mr. Gomez rented a car and followed us on our bikes. FYI, Mr. Gomez offered a ride, but I refused. In hindsight, I should have taken his offer, but I think I was challenging myself, so I was determined to see this through. So off we went. On flat land, I was doing great. I was enjoying the wind in my hair. Then I look ahead and I see my first hill. This first hill had a long, gradual upward slope. At first I was like, I got this. But about 5 minutes go by and I noticed I start slowing down. And pedaling seems to be a bit harder. I start to fall behind. After another 5 or 10 minutes, I finally caught up to the group. As I'm catching my breath, I look ahead and see an even steeper hill. So I prayed and asked God to help me get through this day. This hill seemed longer. Maybe because I was struggling, but it seemed like a lifetime to get to the entrance of Diamond Head Park. Even Mr. Moore had to check up on me to make sure I was okay. Well, I got to the entrance. Then I looked ahead and saw another steeper, curvy hill up ahead of me. I needed a break, so I walked my bike up that hill, through the tunnel, and finally I caught up with the group. I thanked God that I made it through that hill, but I also bought a pineapple treat just before heading to the hiking trail. It was now time to go up the hiking trail up to Diamond Head. I looked up at that steep trail and I prayed, God, please help me. So I started off on the trail. I remember it being very hot, and because of higher altitudes, I had a hard time breathing. I needed to take frequent breaks and I fell behind, but I kept going. Although halfway through the hike, I wanted to give up. I wanted to turn around, but I really wanted to see that scenic view, so I just kept going. I might have taken a lot of breaks, but I finally made it to the top. Going back down the hiking trail was a breeze. I thanked God for his creation of gravity at that point. We got back onto our bikes and headed to a restaurant. In my mind, I thought it would be easier this time because the only way back was to go down, right? Wrong! We start heading out, and I was following along. And we get to the street where the hill was so steep that you had no choice but to walk your bike up. All the students were trudging along. I was too, but I was having such a hard time breathing. Of course, I started to fall behind. I see them heading over that hill one by one. I make it a little bit halfway up that hill, and this is where I decided, I'm done. I'm done with biking. I'm done with this walking. So I formulated a plan in my head. Okay, all I have to do is get my phone out, call a taxi, use my location device to find out what's the closest address here. Take apart this bike so that it could fit in the trunk. Just when I was about to pull out my phone to call a taxi, a student came for me. And she said, "Let me help you, Mrs. Stafford." And so she took my bike the rest of the way. I thanked God for her. I made it up the hill the rest of the way, and the rest of the time was downhill. So God allowed me to survive. The following adventure we had was kayaking. It rained pretty much the whole time we were there, but compared to the bike ride and that hike to Diamond Head, this was a breeze. Despite the struggles I went through, I had an awesome time. I was grateful to experience such things in such a beautiful place with beautiful people and a beautiful God that allowed this to happen. I felt that I went through a lot mentally and physically that trip. But my continuous prayers to God and God surrounding me with people who were willing to help kept me going. Right now, as you watch this, you and I are going through a huge obstacle, a huge difficulty. This pandemic has created a massive obstacle. It affected us all. When we were ordered to stay home, guess what we did? We figured out a way to do online school. We figured out a way to communicate with each other. And although we are still dealing with this, I know that we will persevere because with God, all things are possible.